Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. Far better is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those timid souls who never enjoy much nor suffer much. Theodore Roosevelt. Our guest today, NFL player, best-selling author of The Success Cycle and Sleepless Nights, as well as Pathway to Trauma and Recovery. Top 0.5% podcaster in the world. Um, Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. Worked with, played with, I believe, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Scottish Claymores, the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the Tennessee Titans. These amazing teams started businesses, grew them, learned the hard way on some things. I could keep going. Coach, speaker, worked with over 50 Fortune 500 companies on leadership, coaching, consulting. Marques Ogden, thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast. And like so many people in my life keep telling me about you. So it's freaking amazing to have you here on the Culture Matters podcast. And thanks for coming on the show. Shout out to
No
Andrea
problem.
Dobkin for connecting us.
No problem. Thanks. Nice to meet you, Jay. Yeah, Andrea is fantastic. Met her at an event in Denver. So great to be here, man.
I'm very curious about when you started playing the game of football, your first game that you ever played, and if there's a lesson in that first game or that first season, whether that was like the as a young, child, and things that you actually attribute today with this immense success with your podcast, your authorship, your speaking. It's like, when did you first play?
So, so I didn't start playing football until my freshman year of high school. And
Whoa.
so that season, well, I went to St. John's College High School in Northwest DC. Fantastic school. It's actually in the top, I'll just say to be safe, 25 in the nation for football. So they'll play like De La Salle from, California, IMG from Florida. So they're a powerhouse. And then our conference is a powerhouse. DeMatha has great football players, Gonzaga, good counsel. So a great lesson for me to share with your audience is I remember playing my freshman year at St. John's. I was a D tackle. I remember playing against DeMatha, who was by far at that time was the best team in the conference. And I remember coming across the line, getting ready to do what I thought was to kill the running back. I thought the guard missed me, and I got by him. Then the other guard came from the other side and ended up hitting me so hard that I ended up getting knocked on the ground. My head bounced like 6 inches off the ground. And I remember getting up dazed, and I said to myself, wow, this is the game of football. It's about misdirection. It's about overcoming challenges. It's about getting knocked down and getting up. And I got up. And again, I was very inexperienced playing my freshman year, didn't know a whole lot, was struggling with technique and how to, be more aggressive and things like that. I was very, very timid. I didn't really know the game. So that lesson that I learned as a 13-year-old freshman in high school has still carried with me today to who I am because I've been knocked down so many times in football, in business, as you referenced. I mean, I started a company, got to 25 million a year, lost it all the following, a couple months later. I had my home foreclosed on. I had both my cars repossessed. I had to leave Baltimore. I remember basically it was 2 days before Christmas of 2012. The bank had told us that they were shutting down our lines of credit, that they were coming after everything that I owned. I had to move to Baltimore with no money and all these other things. And, it was a lot. It was a lot. And so I've been knocked out, been through a divorce and had to bounce back from that, moved into an apartment after I ended up going to mediation with my ex and being in that situation. Then from there, got out, went to an apartment, struggled with just feeling like a failure. This is not that. This is only 2.5 years ago. That's all this was. And I was struggling to get out of bed and get my life going. And I just kept getting up. I kept the discipline, when I didn't want to get up, or if I was hanging hangover, I was drinking a lot. I just kept going, and finally got my act together. Then May of that year, I bought my dream home, and I was talking to my client who was also my realtor on yesterday, and she was talking about how I didn't even realize this, right, Jay? You talk about culture matters. I tell the culture is what you tolerate. And where I was in my place with my ex, the culture was toxic. It was negative. I moved into the apartment. It was negative again. It was hard. The house, it got a lot better. But I look at it, right, Jay, is that I also developed the ability or the culture habits to build slowly. Because when I bought my home, I was literally, Jay, I had nothing except for the dishwasher, the stove, all I had to
Yeah.
buy. So I had to start all over, Jay, from scratch. But I just did it piecemeal. I would buy cheap things just to get by. I would work myself up. And I was telling myself yesterday, come next month, I will have paid off the last bit that I owe for my furniture in my home, and I'll be completely,
Congratulations.
debt free in that regard. So the thing I just want to say is that, I've been through a lot. I've been knocked down so many times. I've struggled, had to overcome suicidal thoughts and hardship and depression and anxiety for so many, many times. And luckily, I was able to push through, and here we are today.
When you started your podcast,
Mhm.
what year was that?
So I had good question. So I had a first podcast with my co-host, the Lev and Marcus show, that started in 2019. And we started that, and then COVID happened, and we were together until about 2021.
Huh.
And my business partner and my co-host, we did not agree on how much money we should have been making with the podcast. And we made a good amount of money through the podcast sponsorships, all
Huh.
these things. And it wasn't enough for him. And we just couldn't see eye to eye. So we parted ways. And then it's funny, right? So I started my podcast, Jay, June of 2022. I filed for
Oh,
divorce
God.
July of 2022. So I started June, and then that
Uh-huh.
next month,
Keep
I
talking.
I filed for divorce, and then I was literally, Jay, going through so much hardship, so much negativity, so much doubt, but I was disciplined in the fact that
Mm.
I didn't give up on the podcast.
Yeah.
We kept recording, we kept publishing, we kept doing things, and now here we are, 3 years later, getting these type of substantial downloads. One of the largest legal sports betting platforms, Jay, reached out to my hosting platform's team saying they
Hmm.
want us to do ad reads for their brand in our shows. Not just baked in ads, right, Jay, but
Uh-huh.
ad
Uh-huh.
reads, specifically talking from my voice to our audience, and they're super excited about it, right?
Your your
So
your
again,
first, or go ahead, go ahead.
no. We've got lots of sponsors of our show, but
Uh-huh.
that's our first major corporation wanting us to do an actual specific ad read that they create.
Your first um handful of episodes, were they monologues? Were you bringing people on as well? How did
I
you,
was always,
and
I
then,
was all, it was always interviewing people. Always. We
okay.
were always interviewing people. So I joined the NFL alumni media group. And when
Wow.
I started, and that's how I found my awesome producer, Ben Boquest, and all these things. And I ended up interviewing a lot of former NFL players like Gus Farrar, Jeff Garcia, Willie Parker, all these guys. And that's kind of how I got started. And then as the show started to get a little bit more traction, we then started going after business owners, business leaders. And then we started after that getting like celebrities, musicians, movie stars, actors, all this stuff. And it just started to really just continue to go and go and go. And so, yeah, I mean, but it's always been interviewing people. But again, we shifted to like, and again, our theme is like get authentic. It's just authentic people sharing their authentic stories.
Being a speaker from what, 2013, you were in some type of janitorial at that time. You said, I'm going to be a speaker. And
Mhm.
then you own the stage, you get on the stage, you have a tremendous amount of experience in the stage and working with these Fortune 500 clients speaking at their companies. So I have a curiosity about stage, like physical stage, and podcasting. How do you see them as different or as complementary? And for our
So
listeners that they, they believe they have a story or they have a voice.
yeah.
Curious.
So being on stage and being on a podcast as a host is not that different, especially if you have a show where it's just you doing all the talking. It's almost exactly the same. And so, but on stage, right, unless it's a workshop, right, Jay, you have to have the ability to come through three things: have great stage presence, engage your audience, educate your audience. If you can't do those things from stage, you're finished. You're finished. Because what happens is if you don't have a great stage presence, the audience won't lean in. If you're not engaging, they won't stay hooked in. And if you're not educating them, the client is not happy because the client is paying you for them to have that audience walk out of there with something that they didn't know that they can apply to do better either in the corporate sector or in the association or in
Hmm.
their core business, wherever the case may be. So again, that's from stage. And then for podcasting, it's similar. It's just you because you need to, man, there's over 4 million podcasts out there. I think like 4.4 million, right? To get people to tune in, you have to have a show that draws people in. I tell people all the time, if people aren't attracted to your brand, it's not going to get you where you want to go. So again, when you're interviewing people, it's a little bit different because you're like listening in, tuning in, thinking about how you want to then, once they're done, understand what they said, and then regurgitate to them in the audience what they talked about, and ask them the next question that stays on track with what they said in the previous section. And I
Hmm.
think that's where a lot of podcasters, I feel, sometimes struggle, is that instead of following the conversation, they try to have like these bullet point questions, stuff like that. And I get that. But the problem is then sometimes those questions don't have any type of relevancy or connection with what the person said in the last segment. And that ends up creating a disconnect between you and the audience.
Yeah, that's brilliant. How about from a standpoint of uh, did you ever think about stopping in the first when you took it over yourself, June, and that next 180-day period? How did you approach it, and was your outlook around stamina and doubt and aim or vision?
So when I started the podcast, I was very, very excited about it. When the divorce happened, I was very, very down. But the podcast was the only thing that kept me going. Well, one of the only things, but man, one of the big things, all my daughters and things of that nature. And then when I moved out, I struggled again because I wasn't home with my family. First time holidays without my girls and family and things like that. And I almost quit the podcast because we were doing okay business wise, but we weren't really making a lot of download traction. We weren't really making a lot of headway. Other than of course retired athletes, I couldn't get a lot of other people to come on the show. Business wise, stuff like that. Because again, we didn't really have a lot of value. So it was really hard. And there was a couple of times, but probably really heavily November, December 2022, and the first half of January 2023. It was a struggle to keep going. It really was. And then finally, I woke up one morning in mid-January of 2023 and I said, man, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to continue to live like this. And that's when I started to work harder, really leaned into the podcast, leaned into, more quality guests, trying to market. Now, of course, we still weren't making a huge traction, but we were getting better. And then once that was actually this year, I was able to get some more dollars to put behind marketing for the podcast.
Wow.
That's when it took off. But again, it makes sense. We were having this type of really good success, and we had just had our 3rd-year anniversary. So we've been doing the podcast for 3 years with growth, but limited growth. But now where we are, I mean, like I said, you have those type of downloads. Like today's podcast episode came out with Jake Steinfeld, who used to be Body by Jake, and he actually
Huh.
is considering running for governor of California. And he loves me. I love him. Great energy. We had it last week come out. Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer. He was great. So I mean, now people
Wow.
want to come onto our podcast. And so, but again, if I'm always authentic and vulnerable. There was a couple of times where, end of 2022, beginning of 2023, I almost packed it in.
Wow. And what did you say yourself not to?
I said to myself, I remembered when I was started keynote speaking for the first 2.5 years, right, Jay, not one paid job. And I
Wow.
said to myself, I said, Marques, you've only been doing this for about 6 months. So if you can go 2.5 years in speaking without getting paid and not quitting, you can go another 2 years minimum in this business without quitting, because there's cost involved, but not as much cost, and you're already doing it. You just got to stay with it. And I tell people, I'm not going to respect you for what you plan to do. I'm going to respect you for what you've done, plain and simple. And
Mm.
so, and I said to myself, what I plan to do with this podcast, I plan to be a big sensation. I plan to hit all these down. Like I plan. No, that's not what it's going to be. And so what people respect is I've done this, and this. You've
Oh, yeah.
accomplished that, and that. And so that really kept me going, man. I was like, you know what? This can work. You just got to get after it, and you can't quit, and you can't go through the process.
What type of effort and activity from a time block and uh, you know, to go from zero to over 600 some odd episodes? That it's been a short period of time. There have 193,000 plus downloads, you said, just of a recent episode.
In,
So
July, in
clearly a
July, in July,
or
only
in
month of
July,
July.
huge, very successful podcast. So from a effort and energy standpoint, before we hit record, you said you had 4 shows to record. So
Mhm.
what does that look like, and what's your philosophy around the activity and the action piece?
So we record twice a week. We record every Tuesday for sure. Some Thursdays we record as well because we just have such a backlog, right? So minimum every Tuesday and or Thursday. We publish every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 6 a.m. Okay, all that. And the sponsors and the audience loves it. If you're going to build a podcast, let me give you a piece of advice. Be sure to be consistent if you're going to publish once a week, totally fine. Make it once a week. If you're going to do twice, fine. Whatever you start with, right? I always tell people start small at one a week, right? That's manageable, or one every 2 weeks. And then as you get more time and more content, more experience, you can go up. But don't start out the gate hot with like 5 episodes and then go dark for like 6 months. There's no sense in doing that. None. So we were used to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 4 p.m. But in the
Hmm.
last month, we switched over to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 6 a.m. release time. And it's been going sensational. People love it. And again, so the recording, we have a system. So my operations team, they will send out emails to people to confirm their appearance on the podcast a week before, give them like a nice 7 to 10 day heads up. So once they confirm, They then get interviewed on Tuesday or Thursday, half an hour interview. After that, then my team will send them a follow-up email trying to schedule a call to chat about maybe some possible business synergies, how we can work well together, and then we go from there. But we're about to create it automated where we're going to start reaching out to people. We're going to start with the first run of construction companies, reaching out to people in that area that we feel are a good target client, and then have a cold email sequence and ask them about coming onto our podcast, right? If they want to do that, they have to fill out a little waitlist form. That information goes into our CRM. Check. One of my team members will have a pre-interview with them to book them. And then we go into the middle of the funnel. We send like, hey, here's about the podcast. Here's what we do. Here's what we cover. Da, da, da. Then we record. After that, there's another email sequence. Hey, let's follow up for a call. How can we potentially collaborate? Da, 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 da. And it goes through a system. And that's when we finally, Jay, after all this time, we finally have a system.
How's that feel?
Amazing. I was telling one of my clients today, we've run this company for 12 years, disfragmented, disjointed, broken, with no systems. And we've been very lucky with heart, grit, determination just to keep going and not give in. Because there's been a lot of work on us to get to this point. But now with the systems, Jay, we're going to have those built by the end of the month. So by September 1, we'll have a pre-top of the funnel, like a cold email pre into our network email nurture sequence. Then once they want to come on the podcast, we'll have a middle of the funnel nurture sequence. Once they come off the podcast, we'll have a bottom of the funnel nurture sequence. And I'm telling you, man, we never had any of this. Never in our company. Never. And to see my team get excited about how to reach out to people with a touch of automation, a touch of human, the persistence, they're seeing it. And like I said, man, to have this company once, and I'll make it public once I actually sign my contract, to have this very large legal sports betting platform want us to do ad reads in our show for them. And we've only been on the hosting platform that they found us all on in for 2 weeks. That's it. We came onto that hosting platform on July 18th. So that's what, 12? It's about 2.5 weeks since we've been there. And we've already got a major legal sports betting platform that wants to pay us to run, to say specific ad reads on our show, because they're that impressed with our reach and with our downloads.
On the capacity of reach, we have many people in the construction world that listens to the show, actually. So I want to talk about, so Caden Premier Enterprises, you in 2009, you were awarded Entrepreneur of the Year, 2012, top, Future 50 CEOs. Isaac Newton said, I stand on the shoulders of giants so I can see farther. Lincoln said, I learn from everyone I meet. Usually it's what not to do. There's so much wisdom in your rise and your fall. You talk about this on your show. You talk about this in your books. What are like subtle potential mistakes that our listeners in the construction space could be making right now that are in the 7 to 8 figure range, that you created that 8 figure plus business and you learned the hard way, and now you help people not do that. So what are some subtle mistakes that our entrepreneurs listening in the construction space could be making?
The big one I think a lot of companies make, which ends up being detrimental, is trying to grow too fast. And that's one that we did. Caden should never have gone to a $25 million a year company at the end of year 3, beginning of year 4. There's no way. We were not funded for that. We didn't have a good enough line of credit. We didn't have a good enough team. We didn't have the right leadership. We just got thrust into that because We ended up getting so many projects from people because we were minority certified. We could bond, and we could bond the jobs, and we just ended up, getting over leverage. And that's a big mistake that people make in this business. You start seeing some signs of success, money coming in, and instead of being very strategic and visual spatial and seeing the big picture, you end up getting short-sighted and blinded by the money the same way I did. And I ended up just thinking I was bigger and better than I really was. And it cost me. I mean, it cost me dearly. I ended up having to literally start over from the bottom and rebuild and all these things because I was just so focused on just more money, more money, more money. And I ended up, having to, lose everything I owned and come down to Raleigh and start over.
How about on the constructive side, what were some of the skills and talents that you would say that you possessed in that time that led to the growth? Because many of our listeners wish that they had that problem.
I'll tell you what, brother, I was really great at connecting with people. That's what we do now with our brand. We are very good at connecting, going on podcasts, going to events, and making it where it is a real benefit to both sides, not just us who
Hmm.
we're talking to. And a lot of people struggle there because a lot of people can come across as very short-sighted and very just thinking about themselves. And that's not a good place to be in. So I tell people all the time, you have to learn to look at, you know, what do people need, right? And I tell them all the time, you gotta start doing things like asking questions to understand, not asking questions to just respond.
Hmm. Jacksonville Jaguars, you had a coach there, or I don't recall or a
Jack Del
mentor. There
Rio.
was a mentor.
Jack Del Rio.
What was his core values or things that you
Hmm.
learned from him that would be helpful for us?
Jack Del Rio was a former player in the NFL, played at USC, played with the Minnesota Vikings as a
Wow.
fantastic kick-ass linebacker, middle linebacker. So Jack was not just a coach, he was a player who was also a coach. Jack taught me a lot about grit, perseverance, and it's like he said, resilience has to be greater than resistance. When resilience is greater than resistance, you're in prime position to win. And that's what I learned, playing for Jack and with the Jaguars and being around some great players that I played with and spending time with the Jaguars, with the organization, with the staff. And it was great because I can say without Jack and some of his teachings and some of his knowledge, who I am today, that's ability to bounce back, work through challenges, all those things, there's no way it happens because there was so much that happened to me so fast. Like lost all this in like basically like 90 to 120 days. Lost all my money. Basically, I knew when my bank line got shut off, my credit card got shut off. I knew I was gonna lose my home. I knew I was gonna lose my cars. I mean, I knew all these things. And so it was nuts. It was a lot. And so without the teachings that Jack gave, there's just
Hmm.
no way that I get to where I'm at today because I would have folded at some point along the way.
Today, you coach business owners, leaders, you speak at um, very large institutions. So how do you define what a coach is and what that relationship is to the client? And for our listeners that don't know uh, a coach or a mentor or haven't had one, a Jack in their life, a Marcus in their life,
You know
what's
what?
the value system?
I asked one of my clients this. Well, I didn't ask her. We were chatting about this yesterday. It was Sarah Hubbard, who's a phenomenal individual. She's a mortgage broker, married, has a young son, and she's just a great, great lady. And she is looking to build her speaking business. So she heard me speak in Denver, where I met Andrea. Same event,
Oh, wow.
same event. And so Sarah and I were chatting about how when she would go out to places for other advanced masterminds, people were always trying to sell her something on them hire or her hiring them to coach or to do this or to do that. And I don't know why, right, Jay? But when I saw Sarah in the audience watching me speak and really tuning in and locking what I was saying, I said to myself, that's going to probably become a client of mine. I don't know why, but she is. And so we had a call after, and she signed up right away. And what was great is that she even said the reason she hired me is that she could tell that I was going to align with her. I was going to align with her and all the things. So she was huge in that regard.
Hmm.
Okay.
What when it comes to uh,
Hey,
starting?
hold up.
Oh,
Hey,
sure.
so I just want to say, right? Okay, that was good. I'll say again.
Uh,
Jay, so awesome. We're just talking, right? The podcast right now getting up, right, brother? I just got an email from my hosting platform. Zip Recruiter
oh
wants me
yeah,
to do an ad read for them on our show. This
right now
just
live.
came in. This
Yeah,
just came
congratulations. Yeah.
in while talking to you that Zip Recruiter wants to have me do an ad read for them on our show.
Do you? May this? Are you like a man of faith?
Big time. Huge. Huge. That's God's divine right there, brother. That's God's timing. Like we were just talking about the podcast, doing the work, putting it
Yeah.
in. And here's what happens. ZipRecruiter says, yep, love that show. Love what he's doing. Let's go ahead and have him do an ad read.
You are what I've experienced from building a relationship with you, a new relationship is connector.
That's what I
Okay.
am.
What is a connector to you? Why invest the energy? Uh, how do you make a connection? I would like to go and unpack that a little
Yep.
bit for our audience. Maybe we have
Sure.
listeners that are thinking that sounds like a lot of work. What's in it for me?
You know what, Jay? What I tell people is anything that's worth something, anything that you want to have for greatness is going to take work, right? Think
Mhm.
about that. I mean, ZipRecruiter is one of the largest recruitment companies in the world. I mean, they're huge. Like they are absolute juggernauts. And now here they are wanting to advertise on our show, right?
Wow.
The ad reads the whole 9 yards. If I would have quit back in November 2022, December 2022, or January 2023, this doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. And so, what I'm trying to express to people is the following: in life, you're going to have to put the work in and do the things that you don't want to do to get the result that you want to get.
You did offensive tackle, guard, and center. You were like able to do all of these different positions. What
Yep,
what
that's correct.
what did it take to be competent at three different positions? And you have to. I am like I'm not. My wife is very big into football, and so I need to learn more about the sport. The people that listen
Right.
to the show, they know I don't know a lot about football, but I did
That's
my
a great
research
thing,
so I
man.
could ask you about this.
Yeah. So again, man, like anything else, right, Jay? You have to learn that everything that you're doing, everything that you're working on has to have this type of situation where you can pivot. And so go from tackle to guard to center, oh, the whole process is this. You have to know, you have to clearly understand what it is that you need to do to make adjustments and or to pivot to be successful in different phases of life. And that's what it is when you're playing tackle guard center. Because I was in college, I was a tackle my entire career. I was right tackle, For 2 years, left tackle, went back to right tackle. Then our starting center blew his knee out, and poof, he's out for the year. And I go to center with absolutely no experience. I didn't know anything about the position, but I was able to just pivot because of my athletic ability, and I was a quick learner. In life, in business, you have to be able to adjust on the fly. Have to. If you can't adjust on the fly, you're in a lot of trouble. A lot of
Yeah,
trouble.
are there lessons that are very clear to you because you play the sport and with so different cultures, different teams, the similarities or crossover between playing a position or multiple positions and entrepreneurship?
So absolutely, 100%, Jay, because in entrepreneurship, especially when you're just starting out, you're gonna have to wear a lot of hats when you're starting. Unless you have like this huge loan or line of credit or come from a very wealthy family, right? You are going to have to wear multiple hats. When I first started out, my first person I worked with was Dawn Wiener. Love Dawn to death. She's family, she's amazing. Dawn worked for me and wore every freaking hat under the sun. Every freaking hat. And she was just great. And she was able to help on a large scale. She did content, website, videos, photos, all that. And then as things got better and more money came in, I then hired George, who was my website guy. Then from there, after hiring George, I found a great videographer. From there, I found a great person to help me, to help me with like more sales, right? So it just took time over time. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And that's what it really comes down to.
Was of the teams that you played with, was there one that was so clearly during that your career the most productive, purpose-driven culture, and
Oh
why?
yeah, the Ravens, and I played with some great teams, but the Ravens had great leaders like Ray Lewis, my brother, Ed
Oh wow.
Reed, Terrell Suggs, all these monsters of the midway. Well, not really midway, the monsters of the gridiron. Sorry, that's a better way of saying it. Who were just phenomenal, especially Ray Lewis, at the energy, at how he brought things to the table, at all these things. That who he was that guy, right? So again, it's
Wow.
so awesome. It's so, it's such a great feeling. I put all the time. It's all about your ability to really be able to get people inspired. If you want to have a great culture, have people in it that can get others fired up. Because that's what you need. Because when you have that type of culture, when people can get other people fired up, it creates it's like it creates other people that get fired up. It connects with people, it resonates, and they get more excited, they get more fired up. Now you're talking about a bigger, badder level.
You think that's part of the reason why these bigger companies would bring you in?
Yes, that's a great point, Jay, because I can fire people up, but I can fire you up, and also I can give you action steps to teach you how to actually move ahead in your life.
Your book that was released in 2020, very popular, is The Cycle Success, the
The
three
success
keys,
cycle. Yep.
the three
Yep.
success.
Success cycle.
So what are
Yep.
as we close, what are the three keys?
They are following: ambition, drive, hard work. Ambition, drive, hard work. Okay. And so ambition, it is the ability to create the blueprint that you want for yourself. Okay. That being what I call it being a vision architect. A great leader, a great individual can create a healthy culture, can have the vision and be an architect of that vision. The second thing, right, is drive. That's be inspired over motivated. Motivation burns out. Inspiration never does. And that's why, Jay, our podcast kept going through all the hardship. Okay. The third, hard work. Focus on yourself, not the competition. That's huge. Okay. Focus on yourself and not the competition. You can't control what's going on around you. but you can control you and what you do, whatever is around you.
Why, where can our listeners start with that? What is there some a practice that you'd recommend that's helped you throughout your life, your career to refocus and look at self versus everyone or everything else?
My friend, learn to master the art of meditation. Meditation helped me get out of because my body was trapped in that crappy, broken down apartment, but my mind wasn't. So I would mentally meditate and visualize what I wanted for myself. I say meditate to get quiet, then visualize to see what you again become a vision architect. If you don't like the life you're in, become a vision architect, build the life you want for yourself, and then start taking action towards it.
What's next for you, and how can people that are listening work with you? What do you offer that they could say, you know what, this is my guy. I want to come alongside and be a part of his journey.
So if you want us for keynote speaking, we can do that for you. We can find out what topics you're looking for, and we can create a customized presentation for you. We can do half and or full day workshops for you. We can do some one-on-one business coaching and or life coaching if you need it, or executive coaching. We can do consulting where we come in once a month in person or virtually. We've done that for clients. If you want to be a guest on our podcast, go to www.marques, MARQUES, Ogden, OGDEN.com, and you can go ahead right then and there and go to attendee, like like an attend, it's like attendee, and you can then fill out a form to be a guest on our podcast. It's a waitlist form. So if you go to that part of our website and it says, attendee, you can like attend as a guest on our podcast, you can fill out that on there.
Marques Ogden, best-selling author, acclaimed speaker, high performance athlete, NFL, friend of the Culture Matters podcast. I want to ask you, what's one core value of our friend of the Culture Matters podcast, Mitchell Black? I almost forgot to ask. Mitchell Black, he talked about you on the first time he was on the show. You gave him an opportunity to like get his act together. He was dressing like a hoodlum, he said. And you looked at him and said, so, if you remember the story, some of the effect of like, you can do better. So I'd love to hear that story if you remember. And what's a core value you say that he embodied? Because he's very successful today.
I told him he needs to dress the part and be professional and show up and show out. And he took that and ran with it. And a core value that he has, I believe, now is self-awareness. He's very good to know what he does well, but also what he needs to work on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a key to your success. If you can understand what you do well and what you don't do well, everything else will take care of itself.
Marques Ogden, thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast. If you're listening to this, follow our friend, subscribe to Get Authentic with Marques Ogden, and reach out to be in his world, work with him. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thank you, my friend.
Look forward to it.